Mark, nice to see you again. I guess we'll start with Saturday just gone and the confidence of getting that game on for it to be called off quite short notice, the frustration of that.
Yeah, and obviously we haven't played for since an age, so we were looking forward to the game of the weekend, clearly. It was touch and go. Obviously, there had to be an early call. The referee wanted an early call on it. I suppose there was issues for the club as well in terms of catering and whatever, but the referee called it early. I think if we actually trained on it, on one half of it, immediately after about just did a decent session or just to put some work into the guys. There were areas that were frozen, and but if we could have waited a little bit longer, I think he probably would have gone ahead. But obviously, it's the referee's call, and we have to abide by that.
You mentioned a quick session after. What do you do with the players in that situation?
Well, we'd had a plan. Plan A obviously was to play the game and win. Plan B was if it was called off, then we'd do a session, and we'd planned all that anyway. So we had a contingency plan for every eventuality. Obviously, Plan A was the preferred option, but we weren't able to get the game on, unfortunately. And that was a disappointment for everybody because we're all chomping at the bit to get back playing. But obviously, we'll address that in the coming week because we're 3 in 5-6 days, so we'll get back on track again.
It's like waiting for a bus, isn't it?
A little bit.
You've almost had your own World Cup break then. I guess, does a lot of the training now come down to match fitness? Because obviously the guys haven't been out for nearly 3 weeks.
We wouldn't lose any significant amounts of fitness. That won't be the issue. It's just game time. You get into a rhythm of playing, and you miss that when you haven't got a regular schedule and you're not playing week in, week out. So we haven't quite had that repetition of games one after another, so we'll address that obviously as I've already mentioned next week. So we just want to get out and play. I mean, a number of sessions being compromised as well a bit with the weather, as you would imagine, but thankfully we've had the availability of the 4G here, so that's helped the situation. So we haven't really missed any training. All we've missed is the games.
I guess in a way, it's Matty touched on it as well. You can do all this training, all this prep, but does it almost get to a point? It's like we just need to play the game now. Yeah,
I think we're at that point. I'm grateful that weather-wise we look like we're going to have a decent week next week. So there won't be any issues with any. You'd like to think with any cancellations. So we're all ready to go. Clearly, Matty feels like the rest of us. Thankfully, that. We just want to get out there and start performing again.
Carlisle-wise, it's almost another hoodoo like Harrogate and Salford in the league this season. City not winning there since 1985. But I know this season, you've enjoyed banishing those kind of statistics.
Yeah, we've done it. We've done it on a couple of occasions. So yeah, another opportunity to do that. I think Boxing Day, obviously. I think the option of actually going to Carlisle isn't the one we would have picked if I'm honest, and I'd like to think I am. So, it's not ideal in terms of that, but we will go on the day and get ourselves up there and make sure we're ready to go, get a pre-match meal somewhere near, and then obviously play the game and hopefully address our record. That doesn't make great reading at the moment, but as you said, we've been able to wipe the slate clean on a number of occasions, so hopefully that'll be the case again.
I guess given the last 2 results in the league as well, going up against sides with similar ambitions to you, Carlisle, similar place in the league, it's a real chance for you to make a statement, isn't it?
Yeah, we've missed, obviously we had 2 results that went against us, and then we had obviously 2 fixtures that we felt we had a real opportunity to get back on track and get good points on the board. So we've taken a step back, but it's up to us to take 2 steps forward. And if we're going to have a good Christmas, which is our intention, then because the games are in close succession, then very quickly you can accumulate 9 points in a week. So that's really huge for us. So that's our hope. That's our aim and goal. So hopefully we'll be able to do it. Difficult games for us. Teams apart from Carlisle, obviously teams that we've played before. So we know pretty much what we need to know in terms of Harrogate and Salford. So Carlisle allows a little bit different, given that we haven't played them at this point. But we'll do the prep. We've got good time and good training opportunities leading into the game, so we'll make sure we're ready.
Boxing Day wise, me and Simon were discussing before, when it comes to fans, it's probably one of the favourite days in the calendar, isn't it? How aware of that are you as a player and a manager, or is it just another game for you guys?
No. From memory, there was always good atmospheres, and on Boxing Day, on occasions it at times be a little bit muted. Maybe people suffering from a little bit of overindulgence, but that clearly doesn't affect the players. We've just got to get our head down and get our job done, and then hopefully by the time the game's finished, everybody's sobered up and enjoyed themselves, and they can cheer to the rafters. So we're looking forward to it. It's a great date in the football calendar, and we'll look forward to it. It's a long trek, but if we're going to do that, then let's make it worth our while.
Christmas Day wise, will the players be in preparing, or what kind of time off will they have over that weekend?
We'll look at it. I haven't made a decision on that. My thinking is we probably won't be in. We will just travel on. A lot of guys have to do a lot of travelling into training anyway. I think on Christmas Day we're probably better served doing the work leading up to Christmas Day. Let them have the time with the families and get ready for the game the following days. So that's the way I'm leaning at the moment. But depending on how they train, that might change. So we'll wait and see.
If it is a day off on Christmas Day, what does Christmas Day look like for Mark Hughes?
I'm not sure, because usually I've been in. I can't think on too many occasions when I've been at a club that I've had Christmas Day off. So it'll be like everybody else. I get up and open my presents. Then my grandchildren will come around, my kids, and we'll have a nice time like everybody else.
Moving on from Boxing Day and a chance to be back at Valley Parade, back-to-back games. Obviously, we know you touched on the home form before the Rochdale game, but that's a massive incentive, isn't it, to reward the crowd over this period?
Yeah, we'd like to think we'll go into those games on the back of a good performance, good result against Carlisle. That's our hope. So hopefully we'll be in good fettle, ready to go again. We've talked at length about obviously making the most of the advantage that we have at home, and we've got to start making that impression on opposition teams that we've talked about in our home games, and get back on track. No reason why we can't. I've been really pleased with how we've trained, I have to say. Obviously without the end game in terms of preparing all week and then having a game to go into. We haven't had that, but the work leading into the games that we've missed out on has been really good. So I just think we're ready to go. And the fact we've got 3 games very close one after another is great for us, I feel.
Team news wise, any fresh injury concerns heading into this period?
No, we've had a little bit of illness, a little bit of chesty coughs, and a little bit of feeling of unwellness, and so we hope that will clear up. A number of the guys have had that, and they've missed the odd day here and there. Nothing too significant, but a couple of them have missed a day's training, so hopefully that won't go right through the group. But I don't think it's going to impact us next week. It's probably just 1 or 2 days, 1 or 2 individuals that is just affected this week.
Romney Critchlow was touch and go leading up to Rochdale. Is he still...
No, Rom's fine now. Yeah, he probably would have played against Rochdale. He was fit enough to play. So, no, there's no problem. He's trained really well, like the rest of them, leading into the games next week.
Just lastly, coming up to Christmas, obviously people always say it's a time for reflection. How do you reflect on your time at Bradford City so far?
I think we're doing okay. I think we're in decent position in terms of having a really good go in the second half of the season. There's a number of teams that have made a really strong start, and they obviously have made inroads into achieving their goals. But we're very, very well placed. Happy enough. We had a couple of setbacks, obviously, last 2 games out, but I don't think it's any reason to worry or panic. I think we're well placed to achieve what we want to achieve this year. So, yeah, looking forward to the second half of the season.
Best of luck for it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
So, Mark, obviously, having this gap of suddenly a few weeks all of a sudden, I mean, sometimes teams can say, oh, we were just getting good momentum going, then it stopped, and then we've got to start again. In a way, when you're coming off a couple of disappointing results, it may not have done any harm in the sense of, drawing a line and sand starting again.
Yeah, I take your points. I think our view was that we just wanted to get back and start playing again and address what Razor said in the 2 games that we got beaten in. So we haven't had that opportunity, but I think given how we've trained and where we are and the feeling in the group, I think it's a time really now to just keep on saying, get back on track. We've had a decent points tally up to this point, so we've got to keep on putting points on the board, making sure that we're still well placed, which there's no reason why we won't be, and get on with the job in hand, which is to make sure we get to the end of the season in a position that we're really happy with.
You sense a sort of group of players, as you say, they're sort of bouncing off the walls to play again, but you sort of sense a group of players who want to sort of start making their impact again?
Yeah, I think so. I think the 2 games we had, obviously prior to the break because of the weather, I think there were key moments in the games. We made a mistake that we were punished with. We started brightly in both games, but obviously goals change games. We can go over the events of the games if you want. I mean, we were aggrieved obviously with the Leighton decision early part of the game from the referee. We've actually had feedback from the referees saying that it was a wrong decision and it should have been a penalty, but it doesn't really do us any good, obviously. We don't get any.
First time you've had that, is it?
No, it's not the first time. I hope it's the last time, if I'm honest. But yeah, that's what you want from the referees, is to get the big decisions right. Clearly, through the whole 90 minutes, it's difficult to get every decision absolutely spot on, but it's the big decisions that they need to get correct, and when they don't, then obviously they're open to criticism from managers and players alike in terms of their performance level. So it can happen. It's difficult when it does, because the goals, as we know, change games, and certainly when we get our noses in front, we become a difficult team to overcome. So that's a shame for us, looking back on that game. But like I said, there was other things in the game that we need to be better at if we're going to turn things around when we do go behind in games as well. So we're not a million miles away from where we need to be. I think there's still that feeling that on any given day there's a potential performance in us that will just sweep a team away, and we'll win comprehensively. We haven't actually done that as often as we should have done, given the ability we have. So that's something to strive for, and something that we can certainly attain if we keep on progressing.
You've still got the faith in the team to do that, have you? Because I know
you've
sort of said it a few times, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got good talent. I think that's recognised by everyone. There will be times when maybe form dips. You just got to make sure that you recognise that. And if players are out of form, it's no reflection on them. It can happen, and sometimes they have to go out. Somebody who's been patient comes in, and you get that energy back into the team again. So players understand that. It's what happens in football. It's no reflection of them as individuals or their ability as players. It's just form's temporary.
And obviously Carlisle themselves, strong team at home, not just the fact that Bradford have struggled there, but they're a good team at home, and
Good team.
Make it difficult for you. I mean, What sort of challenge? Because I know Paul Simpson sort of came in similar time to you when he went back there, and he sort of transformed them from a team that were very much looking to survive into one now up there.
No, they've got a good understanding of what's required at this level, and having looked at them just recently, they seem to go a little bit more direct than possibly they did initially. Maybe that's a decision they've taken, given the personnel they've got. They're best served doing that. So it'll be a challenge. Every game in this league is. So we have to be ready for it. Make sure that the way we want to play is the dominant way of playing in the game, and we have to impose ourselves on them. At times, we'll come under pressure. We just got to be able to manage those moments and make sure that when we have the ball and we're in the ascendancy, it's us that's dominating and capitalising on that.
Obviously, talked about Boxing Day. I think it'll be your first Boxing Day for about 5 years, won't it? So is it going to be
possibly,
nice to be back in that swing again? I mean, is that something you've missed when you weren't in football management? Is these sort of
not
occasions?
so much on Boxing Days, if I'm honest. Any other Saturday probably, but yeah, I mean, it's, as I've already said, it's a great fixture in the football calendar. Everybody looks at who you're playing for different reasons sometimes, but first and foremost, you know it's going to be a big crowd. Traditionally, always has been, and that's why it's always in the football calendar, because historically it was always the day when everybody came out and watched football. So that's slightly changed maybe in the modern age, but that's the history behind it. That's my history as well. I always viewed it as a day when everybody came out and watched football.
I think the other thing that's quite poignant is the fact that, Bradford City last year they had COVID, so there was no game. The year before was obviously behind closed doors. So it's 3 years, which was at Carlisle, was the last time. So
right, okay.
A lot of City fans could have gone to a Boxing Day game. So
yeah.
from that point of view, it's
right.
probably a special one for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll take full allocation. We always do. We have great support on the road, as everybody knows. So given it's Boxing Day and they might be under pressure from families to be elsewhere, I'm sure we'll have a good turnout.
I was just going to ask you about Manny Osadabi. Is he getting closer now to
training? Manny's working on the grass now. Great to see him out there. Not been introduced to the group yet in terms of any part of it. So hopefully, New Year. I think towards the end of January, I'd like to think we'll start integrating him into the group, and then it's just a case of getting himself match fit from that point.
Which is quite some comeback from
the
severity of
touch wood, up to this point, I think I've mentioned before, he's had no setbacks, and that's the key. Significant injury, as we all know, and for him to come back is really great, and we're really pleased for him. Obviously, that it's progressed the injury really, really well.
I mean, I know he's quite a positive person anyway, but I mean, you must have seen the difference in him as it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, initially after the injury, he's a very bubbly character and big character, but he was clearly down because he faced a long road back. But as the weeks have got closer to a return and getting out in the grass, and every step in his rehab that he's met either on time or ahead of time. So he gets encouraged by that, and every step he takes, the bigger his smile gets. So he's in a good place at the moment.
It shows a very strong mentality as well, Nick, because an injury like that at the beginning of your very first game could have, a lot of people could have.
Yeah, thankfully his personality's enabled him to deal with that situation, because it wasn't easy, not for him, not for the club, not for anybody.
And for yourself, potentially we would talk about the cliche of a new signing, but a player of that ability coming in second half of the season.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look towards the end of January, hopefully we get him back, and very much like a new signing.
I mean, how's it been the last couple of weeks? Because obviously you've had a couple of defeats, and you've not really had the chance to get out and respond to it as a team. Yeah,
it is. We're at a point where we're a little bit frustrated because we're just chomping at the bit to get out and start playing again. So we've got games in quick succession now, so we're looking forward to them. We haven't had the opportunity to obviously address the couple of defeats that we had, so we've got that opportunity now, so it's up to us to take it.
And just sort of reading your quotes after the Leyton Orient game, you seem very calm and keen to keep things in perspective. I mean, obviously you're used to being around big football clubs. You know how the emotions go. Is just keeping that steadiness one of the most important things?
Yeah, I think so. I've mentioned that we're in a good place. It's not. We've had 2 defeats against sides in and around us, which you don't want because you want to try and affect them detrimentally, and we haven't been able to do that. But we've got other opportunities to do it further in the season, so it's up to us to take those opportunities further down the line. So we'll endeavour to do that. So yeah, we're still in a good position. We've had a decent haul of points up to this point. Some will suggest we should have had more. Others maybe suggest we shouldn't have had as many. So we're reasonably happy. We're not overly concerned in terms of where we feel we need to be. We're in and around where we suspected we would be. We've got a real platform now to have a really strong second half of the season. I think the way we train and the way my teams have been in the past, we've always been strong in the second half of seasons. I look back on my time at almost every club, and it was always the second half of the season that we really kicked on. And I think that's as a consequence of how we train and how we try and gradually get stronger and stronger and better. And that's our intention this time as well.
So you do try and tailor training that way, do you, to get the best out?
Yeah, I mean, let's remind ourselves we did have 17, 18, whatever, many players that came in. So it was always going to be a process to get everybody on the same page. But I've been really happy with that. In fairness, they've all embraced what we're trying to do. So that's why it gives me encouragement for the second half of the season that we've got players that have been here a decent amount of time now that know exactly what I'm after, what I expect, and that can help us in the second half.
And as I sort of alluded to earlier, it's no different to any big club, but at a club where expectation is as it is here, I guess when things are on a high, they can be really high, and when things are on a low, if you're not careful, they can be really low. So have you been pleased with the sort of
expectations? You've heard me talk about dealing with expectations. That's what I've always had to deal with.
Yeah.
It's something I expect, and I don't try and underplay the potential of the group. I think we've got a team that should be challenging at the top. That hasn't changed in terms of I won't try and say something different in that regard. I think expectations is something to work with and go with. If you try and underplay the potential of your group, then people recognise that. And I can't say we're just hoping to stay in this league because people were thinking, well, that's rubbish because they're better than that. So I don't do that. I want us to be successful. I want us to think we can achieve things. And along with that, when you raise expectations, then sometimes you can disappoint people. And that's part of it. But never be fazed by expectation. Expectation is the thing that gets the adrenaline flowing, and expectation for me just translates to excitement and real expectation of the game and the journey we have in front of us. That's the expectation I deal with.
I mean, it always seems to have brought the best out of you personally. Some people will shrink with it, but you sort of sense in this group that they enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, that was part of the recruitment process is obviously trying to bring players that would be able to deal with it, deal with that expectation. For the most part, we've done okay in that regard. I mean, people will question our home form, but that's something we can address. And I don't think it's because of apprehension or worry about any games at home. I don't sense that before any game. We've made mistakes and that's cost us, but anticipation of what's ahead of us is really exciting from my point of view, and I think the players feel that as well. In fact, I know they do. I think they're really looking forward to this second half of the season where lots been talked about, lots been discussed in terms of what we can do. Now it's a case of making sure we do that, and it's up to us to back ourselves and go for it.
Obviously, the higher divisions have had a break. You've almost had a break forced on you by the frozen pitches. Does it almost feel like this is the start of part 2 of the season?
Well, there has been an enforced break. We've still been training. regularly in terms of the days we were in. They didn't really change. We didn't lose many training days, if any, if I'm honest. So it's only the games that we're missing. So yeah, that's going to be addressed obviously next week when we've got games one after another.
And if I may just jump ahead to Harrogate as the game after the next. It's obviously a Yorkshire derby, but you seem to be developing a bit of a rivalry. Obviously, much of it before your time, but the fact that you've each beaten the other so far this season, I guess those rivalries just drive clubs on, don't they?
Yeah, I mean they're only a few miles down the road, so it's an obvious one. So we turned things around at their place, obviously earlier in the season, and we'd gone there, and our record there hadn't been very good. Obviously, they turned us over in the cup, which was a real disappointment. I believe one of our poorest performance, and we didn't really turn up for whatever reason on that day, and they were able to progress at our demise. But we've got another opportunity to address that. We didn't play well on the day. We know we can play a hell of a lot better than we were able to produce. Excuse me, in the cup game. So let's endeavour to do that.
Is the cup game something you will use to motivate them, or will it just be?
Well, it's there. It's a recent memory, and on the day we just, for whatever reason, we found it difficult to get going in the game, and they scored, and then there wasn't really a reaction. We usually get a reaction, but on that day, for whatever reason, we didn't. So yeah, we've got something to address. We need to be better clearly than we were against them last time out, and I feel we will be.
And just makes it another game to look forward to, doesn't it? In
Yeah,
this Christmas period?
yeah. Well, hopefully we'll go into on the back of a good performance and result against Carlisle, and that will help, obviously, our form and confidence going into that game.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
All done.
Thanks, Mark.
No problem, guys.
Have a good Christmas.
Have a good
Yeah.
Christmas. Have a good Christmas if I don't see you.